Live, are we?
We are.
Okay, we're not doing it with music tonight, are we?
No, we haven't done the music tonight.
No. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to CBTV, the Isolation Station. Very special edition this evening in light of the recent announcement in Wales with the local lockdown restriction that's been put in place in the Caerphilly County Borough area, or Borough County area, whichever way you say it, I'm not entirely sure. But in effect, what that means is that the Welsh Government has instigated its first local lockdown in Wales. And from what we can gather from reading between the lines, it's probably going to be the first of more to come, unfortunately, because things are starting to go a little bit awry in certain parts of Wales. And unfortunately, Caerphilly is a bit of a hotspot for COVID at the moment, and as such, the Welsh Government has decided to impose a local lockdown. So it's not just Caerphilly, it's the Borough County of Caerphilly, and I think Jem's got a map he can bring up just to show you what we're talking about in terms of the area. I know that for many of our viewers and listeners tonight, this isn't going to directly affect you, but if you look on the map there, you can see towards the bottom, the blue line obviously is the M4. You can just about at the bottom of your picture see Cardiff and Newport, and it's the red area above the M4 which we're talking about. So it stretches as far north as Rumney, as far south as Caerphilly, and you've got places like Crosskeys, Risca, Newbridge, Blackwood, Ystrad and other similar places as well, Bargoed being one of them, everywhere you see within that red line. So I'm going to have a bit of a moan, Jem, to start off with, because I'll be honest with you, I'm personally getting more and more frustrated with the way in which the Welsh Government handled these announcements. And I know they're trying their best, I know that these are unprecedented times, but the problem is, and they've got good form of doing it this way over recent months, is that they will make an announcement, and then it's 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours after the announcement before you get any meat on the bones, before you get any guidance, before you get any instructions on how you're to instigate the guidance or the legislation that they've put in place. So when they announced it yesterday, the Health Minister, Vaughan Geffin, made this announcement yesterday, so we're putting Caerphilly and the county borough into a localised lockdown. The only nugget of information we could garner from that was that this lockdown kicked in today at 6 o'clock, and that you could only exit or enter Caerphilly if you had a reasonable excuse. That's the term the government used, a reasonable excuse. So it puts us as park operators in a very difficult and awkward position, because all we can gather from that is that we have to tell people from Caerphilly and the surrounding area that they can't come back onto the park, and those that are on the park have to leave the park. So that's why last night, late last night, we sent an email out. We sent over 1,000 emails out to our client base in South Wales, just to explain to them. It was a mass mail shot, so we didn't specifically target people within those postcode areas, because the other issue as well, Jem, is when they announced it was Caerphilly and the county borough, we had to sort of work out for ourselves what towns and villages within that county borough were included. And some people may say, well, that's pretty obvious, you just go on Google, look at maps. But I'll give you an example. There are some places, I think Tree Harris being one of them, where depending on where in that village or town you are, determines whether or not you're on the Merthyr side or whether or not you're in the Caerphilly side. So initially what we had to do is we sent out the email, and I'll talk about the email in a second, and this morning we instructed our management team across the parks to ring the owners who we felt it affected. And the only way we could do that initially was by going by their postcode, and we soon discovered that there are certain postcodes where, say, the first 4 digits, 2 letters and 2 digits, could be a Caerphilly postcode, but they could also be a Merthyr County Borough postcode as well. So what we're doing now is a surefire way of making sure that we're getting our information correct, and we're going to share this with you. Jem, if you want to bring up the Find Your Local Authority, Jem will post a link to this in the chat. So this is a website provided by the Welsh Government. You can put your postcode in. So if we just go and click on postcode, Jem, if you put a postcode for Clarick in, which is SY23 3DT, do search, and it should tell you that we are in Ceredigion County Council. So that is the tool that we are now using to make sure that we're getting the information correct. So if we fast forward 24 hours from yesterday to today, literally about an hour ago, maybe a little bit longer, the Welsh Government have finally, 24 hours after making the announcement, they've published the guidance. And included with that guidance are some frequently asked questions. And this is what I would have expected to have been published at the same time or to coincide with the announcement, because by doing it that way, you don't get all of the uncertainty and ambiguity that we've experienced. So I've read through most of the guidance. I've read through the questions that I believe are pertinent to us as holiday park operators and you as caravan owners and guests of our holiday parks. And there's one particular question, and I know we're going to get questioned on this, which is why I want to sort of mention it now to everybody. And I've got a copy of it on my phone, but if you go to, let's have a look. So one of the questions says, I'm currently on holiday or away from Caerphilly County Borough. I'm currently on holiday or away from Caerphilly County Borough area for another reason. Do I have to come back immediately? And the answer says, if you've already been away from the local area for some time and are able to stay away, we consider it reasonable for you to do so. We're also not advising people to curtail holidays where doing so will cause difficulties. However, people who left the borough area shortly before restrictions were put in place should be aware they pose a higher risk of transmitting the virus, and so ideally they should return home. Once residents return to the area, they should then remain in the area until restrictions are lifted. So we decided as a company and as a family that the only way that we can manage this situation sensibly is to say to people on the park, whether they're an owner, whether they're a seasonal tourer, or whether they're a holiday guest, that if their postcode falls within the Caerphilly County Borough area, then we've politely asked them to return home. And I know that goes slightly against what the questions and answers state, but please try and look at it from our side. If we were to allow people from that area to reside or to stay on the park, the main issue is we've got no way of knowing if they've left the park to go back to Caerphilly and come back again. Because they could always say, well, I've just been out shopping for the day in Narberth, or I've took the kids to Oakwood or whatever, So we thought the only way to do this, so there's no ambiguity, there's no grey area, is to say to everybody from Caerphilly, look, I'm really sorry, but even if you are on the park, you do need to go back home. And that's a decision that we as park owners and we as a family have made, and we feel it's a decision that is in the interests of everybody, of all of our customers, of all of our staff. Because like I said, with the greatest will in the world, if caravan number 62 is from a Caerphilly area postcode, and we go to them and say, what are you doing on the park? They could turn around and say, well, I've been here since before Tuesday. I've not been off the park. We've got to take the word from it. And, chances are they're telling us the truth. But as well as I do, not everybody tells the truth all the time. And they may nip back home, or they may just pop here or pop there, or, go and get some supplies and come back to the caravan. So the only way we can be sure is we've got a list in each office now. The park managers have got a map. They've circled on the map the caravans who we believe are owned by people within this area. So there's absolutely no uncertainty. If there is somebody in a caravan that shouldn't be there because their postcode is subject to a lockdown restriction, then we've made it crystal clear in the letter that we've sent out, and we don't like sending letters out like that, but sometimes we have to, just so people know exactly what our position is. We will be looking to take the most severe action we possibly can, which is to terminate the licence agreement. And that's not something we say lightly, and it's certainly not something we do lightly, but we have to let everybody know exactly where we stand on this from the start, because I do think the likelihood is that, unfortunately, there are probably going to be more localised lockdowns in Wales, like we've seen in certain parts of England. One of the fascinating things for me, if we just take a few steps back, is being a resident of Ceredigion, we're still very fortunate, touch wood, to have the lowest rate of COVID in the United Kingdom. And one of the main concerns coming out of lockdown, when the holiday parks reopened, was local people were worried about the tourists from across the border bringing the dreaded virus into Wales. When we look at the figures, when we look at the statistics, when we look at the hotspot areas in Wales, I'm talking places like Wrexham, I'm talking places obviously like Caerphilly, RCT looks like it's very close to being closed down. These are not tourist areas. So for all of those people who had those what now prove to be misconceptions, I think in future people should really, be careful what they say, because it's not fair to sort of tarnish people in that way, So it turns out that the hotspots in Wales are not tourist areas, which sort of goes against what a lot of people said prior to the doors reopening again. So yeah, that's where we're at with this situation at the moment, and it's the only way we can sensibly manage this is to say, if you're from Caerphilly or if your postcode falls within one of those areas, then unfortunately, for the time being, you're going to have to stay away from the park. And if you're currently on the park, hopefully by now we've had our management team at each park on the case today. They've spoken to people, and I've got to say, as always, people have been absolutely brilliant and they've understood it. But I just wanted to clear that up, because since making the announcement yesterday, that's our announcement, we emailed our owners. 24 hours after that, the Welsh Government have published the guidance and the legislation. One question we had last night, which I thought was an excellent question. There was one lady that emailed me last night and said, Thomas, I live outside of Caerphilly Borough, but I travel into Caerphilly Borough each day for work. Can I still come and visit the caravan? Now, from what I can gather from reading the guidance and sort of speaking to people in the various local authorities and that, there's not an issue with that, because she's not a resident of Caerphilly. And we certainly, Vale Holiday Parks, there's no way we can be in a position where we're policing entry to the park based on where somebody works versus where somebody resides. That's getting into territory that's way beyond our remit. And there's going to be sort of anomalies, and that is one of the anomalies. I know, taking holiday parks out of the equation, there are children that live, say, in Merthyr Borough Council that are travelling across the border. And I say travelling across the border, you're talking the best part of a mile or two to go into Caerphilly to go to school, So there's going to be anomalies, but, in fairness to the lady that asked the question, had she not asked the question, then we wouldn't have known any different, So if I was to sit here now and say, actually, if you live outside of the borough of Caerphilly and you travel in for work, you can't visit your caravan, all that's going to do is encourage other people in the same position to keep their mouth shut and not say anything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I've got to give that lady credit for asking the question, and I've got to say, there's no way we can police that at all. The legislation is aimed at people that live in the borough of Caerphilly. So I can see we've had quite a few comments coming in, so I'll take a pause for a moment to try and answer, as always, some of the questions.
We've got some comments as well as questions. Andrew Kitchen is a big guy here on CBTV. He's just he's actually in Bolton.
Yeah, it's gone into lockdown.
And he said, "Hi guys, we're in lockdown here in Bolton."
Yeah.
Mandy Jane asks, "What about people who have booked a holiday at the site? Are these holidays to be cancelled?"
Yeah. So anybody that's booked a holiday, what we're doing, we're automatically moving on to our Vale Flex scheme. So in other words, what you can do is you can move the date of that holiday to another date or time at no extra cost or penalty at all.
Lisa Bennett says, "We've only just left here on Friday. Stay safe all."
Thank you.
Nina says, "To be fair, most of us have written off 2020. We're just hopeful for next year. I'm happy to have had 7 weeks, which I never thought for a second we'd get." Matt Yale says, "Well done, guys. 100% behind of what you said."
Thank you.
Izzy Webb says, as an ex-park owner, please follow these rules. And hi, Jem and Thomas.
Hi.
Izzy. Perry Coop says, I really feel for you guys. You're bending over backwards down there to try and give everybody a good holiday. I've just returned home after a lovely hot tub breakdown. Been fantastic as always. See you all soon, hopefully in better times. And thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Perry.
And Wendy Perry says, when Wrexham spiked for a few weeks ago, we stayed away for 5 weeks till we came back down.
Yeah, it's look, it's difficult for us. Look, I would say on a personal level, it's more difficult for us as a family to tell certain people they can't come to the park when others can. It's far easier to tell everybody you can't come to the park because you're treating everybody the same then, aren't you?
Yeah.
But it's almost as if we're singling out people of Caerphilly and the surrounding area, but unfortunately we are where we are.
Yeah.
Because of what's happening.
But it's like you said. I mean, some of the people that we've contacted today have been so great about it, which they didn't have to be.
No,
but really, really good. Good on you guys.
Yeah, so that's pretty much where we're at. The other thing I just want to mention as well is if you are symptomatic, if you are displaying symptoms of COVID, please stay away from the park. Please do not even consider or think about coming to the park. And I'll just leave that one there. But, we don't want to put anybody at any type of unnecessary risk. And when I say stay away from the park, stay away from everybody, go back home. Do you know what I mean?
Stay home.
Yeah, so that's, just please exercise your common sense where that's concerned.
Another question's come through from Gemma James. Are we okay to rent our van out if we can't come to the site?
As long as you're, yeah, I mean, there are two things I would say with that is, Gemma, if you're from that area and you've recently left the caravan, then I think it would be good practice to get that caravan thoroughly and deep cleaned just to be on the safe side, because of what's going on in Caerphilly. Of course, if you're renting the caravan out and you're renting it out to people or to somebody that's not from the restricted area, then of course that's all fine and dandy. No issue at all.
Well, I know as well. We're going through in our reception here at Clarick. We are checking on any sublets that are coming through as well for the postcodes.
Yeah, and look, I've got to make this clear. And again, it's not me just sort of like trying to turn into Nasty Thomas. But if we do find that anybody has tried to bend the rules or tried to sneak someone in through the back door and wink, wink, nudge, nudge, don't say where you're from, give a different postcode, then I want to be completely clear about this. Your caravan will be removed from the park. And you can take whatever action you want to take against us afterwards. Couldn't care less. Our priority is keeping people safe, and if people are going to try to put others at risk, then as a family, we're not concerned what the consequences are afterwards. We want to keep everybody safe on the park, and if we have to make an example of somebody for bending the rules, then we'll have to do that. I don't like talking in that tone, but Jem, I just don't want to be sort of ambiguous about it.
Yeah, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the safety of everybody else. It's not you're not being mean to one Pacific, but you're trying to save something, so you haven't got to worry about that.
Okay, next one.
We've got one from another couple of comments. Stephen Barrett says, "Behind you guys, you're doing a brilliant job. Hopefully, see you next Thursday." Aston Dulson says, "We'd like to say thanks from us English who have a caravan on your site for sticking up for us when we know we weren't welcome from some of the Welsh people." Adam Roberts says, "I work and live in Caerphilly. I'm also part of a hazard team that deals with COVID outbreaks, so it was nice to go to the caravan while it lasted."
Yeah.
Eve Baker says, "Thomas, I've had an email yesterday saying about 2 people on Cross Park have tested positive. They've used the pool and the bar. So what does that mean with track and trace? Do other people in the bar have to isolate for 2 weeks?" Okay,
so let me clear this up. So yes, again, it's always been our policy to be open, honest, and straightforward. We have had 2 owners test positive for COVID at Cross Park. At the moment, what I can say is that if you haven't been contacted by the track and trace, then you've got absolutely nothing to worry about, because these owners, they mingled in a very, very small and confined circle of friends, and they maintained social distancing throughout. And because we've got very, very stringent cleaning regimes and practices in place, we've spoken to the local authority about it. We've done absolutely everything, gone above and beyond what we should have done to make sure that things are, cleaned beyond clean. This sort of, okay, I'm going to be straightforward and say it. This particular incident here, unfortunately, the people involved on the way to the park decided to stop off at a drive-through test centre to get tested, and then carried on to the park. And then after leaving the park a couple of days later, the results came back positive. I've got to be careful what I say, because the situation from our side of things, dealing with it, is still ongoing. But why you would drive to a drive-through test centre and then carry on to anywhere, a holiday park, a shop, Tesco's, wherever, is completely and utterly beyond all comprehension for me.
Well, to go for a test, you must have some sort of inkling.
Yeah. So this is what I was saying. So it's not often I'm lost for words, but on that one I was lost for words with it. But the situation has been managed. Every person at Cross Park who this person came in contact with has been contacted, and they have subsequently been tested. There's been no further confirmed cases. The swimming pool, you'll know that it's only a family at a time that goes in the swimming pool, and that it's cleaned in between use. And of course, the chlorine does a good job in any case by itself. And like I said, we've gone through everything with the track and trace team, and we've gone through everything with the local authority. One thing I will say, and again, this is me talking as Thomas Scarrett, this is not me talking as a director of Vale Holiday Parks. I think that to get through to somebody to give you solid, structured advice in the event of an incident like that happening, Mark Drakeford, Welsh Government, you've got to get your act together, because it took me about 2 or 3 hours of phoning various phone numbers. I got through, Jem, to somebody in a COVID team, explained the situation to them, and their question to me then afterwards, or their response to me was, and it's word for word verbatim, okay, so what would you like us to do? And that's what they are. So I eventually, after many phone calls and being put on hold, and then I got put through to somebody who works in a local track and trace team. They gave me her phone number for a other job, and she answered the phone in the capacity of a other job. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm after track and trace. She said, oh yeah, that's my other job. I don't know what to really do. I've never got this far before. Let me call you back in half an hour. It's like, all right, okay. So come on, Mark Drakeford, Welsh Government, if you're listening, I know you're trying your best, but I think you need to try a little bit. You need to try a little bit harder in some respects. But people at Cross Park, I can assure you, there's absolutely nothing to worry about at all. I will give these people credit for notifying us that they tested positive. Mm-hmm. Again, they could have kept that information to themselves. So credit where credit's due. But the lead up to that could have been a lot different had common sense prevailed. But hey ho.
Well, you've got a lot of support for what you said about unfortunately being removed from the park.
Okay.
A lot of people, well said Thomas, well said Thomas, well said Thomas, well said from the fellow park owner. We're saying exactly the same as you. Well, Sam Ryder says, well said, 100% safety first. Walters, totally agree with you, and it's nice to hear that you're looking after your staff and customers. Can't wait to see you all next year.
Thank you.
Oliver Addison, hi guys, you're doing a fantastic job. Our first year down in Claret Bay and loving it. Can't wait to be back. Steph Eglinton, thank you for the update. Thomas, you're all doing an amazing job. Stay safe all. Melanie White, thank you for letting us know today that we're not able to join you on Friday, and hopefully we'll be able to come and see you soon. Yes, fully agree with you again. Question from Nina. If we're from an infected area but can't prove... but can prove we've been isolated for 14 days, would we be allowed to come?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's... Again, that's not in our remit to prove or disprove if you've been isolated or not. We can only go by the guidance that's put in place by the government. If we were to go down that road, then we'd have to go down that road for everybody, and with the greatest will in the world, we just haven't got the time or the resources to be able to do that. So unfortunately, we know we can't allow that to happen.
She was just actually preempting, just thinking if our area gets re-affected.
Okay, so
fingers crossed it won't, Nina.
So the other people they have mixed with, have they been told to say yes? They have, yeah. So anybody they've come into contact with. Look, the other thing we got to bear in mind as well is that, and this is now not me trying to sort of lessen what COVID is. If everybody is being sensible and maintain the social distance, then they've got nothing to worry about. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So with this particular case at Cross Park, it transpires that they've not come into close contact with anybody. They're the type of family who like to keep themselves to themselves. They have a very small circle of friends, and they've all been spoken to, and the situation's been dealt with. So if you were one of the persons who have come into contact with them, I've been assured, I've spoken to Pembrokeshire County Council today, I've been assured that the track and trace would have contacted you by now. So, yeah.
Cheryl Pugh asks, is this just for Caerphilly area, or is it relevant for all the areas in the UK that goes into lockdown? And thank you for considering our safety.
It's relevant for all areas of the UK, but goes into a localised lockdown. It just so happens that this is the first area in the UK where we have a high number of caravan owners and regular customers, because Caerphilly, the surrounding area, and when you drop down along that M4 corridor, sort of going back west towards Swansea, that is our main catchment area. And it just so happens that Caerphilly, which is the area that's gone into lockdown, the first one in Wales, we've got, to put it in perspective, I think in terms of people that own caravans and seasonal tourers at our parks in Ceredigion and in Pembrokeshire, there are about 100 people who own caravans, 100 families. So it has affected quite a large number of people across each of our parks in Ceredigion and Pembrokeshire.
I think that's it. Sarah Jenkins says, we just need to write this year off, listen to the guidelines, and kick COVID's armpit. I'll say she did use a different word there, but we can't say that.
Mm.
Joe K. Talbot says, we're affected owners, but totally understand and respect the decision made by you. Fortunately, we had a lovely week last week on the site, and just glad lockdown happened now rather than last week. Hopefully we'll be able to be back soon. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Vale.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
And Carl Tuckley says, Thomas, you should be in charge of the whole of this COVID. You make more sense than the government do.
Oh, do you know? No, thank you for your kind words, but no, I wouldn't want it for all the tea in China to be. Yeah, we won't read that comment there from
John Loveridge.
From John Loveridge.
No.
Yeah, we'll give that one a miss. But yeah, I get where you're going with that. I'll tell you one thing I've noticed, and again, what happens when a bubble gets too big?
Yeah, how they've never said how big a bubble is.
Yeah, but a bubble bursts, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one thing I've witnessed going in and out of the bars and the clubs is you'll go to a family or group and you go, guys, come on, and they go, oh, we're all in the same bubble. Okay, I'm sick of hearing that expression. We're all in the same bubble. We're all bubbling together. Well, the thing is, if you join one bubble to the next bubble to the next bubble, because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
People are not sort of isolating within a bubble. So I could be in a bubble with Jem, but then Jem could be in a bubble with his family, and I could be. Do you know what I mean? There's just no, and I think that's part of the reason, because I do think this. Look, let's. Is it time for me to say a naughty word? Get away with it. I think the bubble is bollocks. Basically,
I wasn't expecting that
yeah,
word.
but because from the start, they've not really. Yeah,
I'm just going white in shock.
From the start, they've put this guidance and legislation out there, and it's crying out for people to manipulate it to suit their own sort of circumstances.
You've been asked if you can just do a quick recap for some people that have missed the beginning.
A quick recap. If you're from Caerphilly or the County Borough, please don't go to the park. If you're from Caerphilly or the County Borough and you're currently on the park, you shouldn't be. Please go home now. Thank you very much.
Nina's just said very quickly. I think was that quick enough there for you, Nina? And also, obviously, any other affected areas, Bolton, etc.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. Are we? I think that's it for me.
That's it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a cup of tea now.
Cup of tea.
Yeah. I think England are playing 15 minutes from now.
Yeah, I'll be missing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep joining bubbles together, and it'll eventually pop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. That is what is happening.
And it's I've never actually thought about it in that way before, but you're so true in what you say. You know, when people say they're in this bubble, then you've got a work bubble, then you've got the school bubble, and then you've got this bubble, and you know, you're not an aero bar at the end of the day. It's you've got to stick to the one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah Jenkins, the only bubble she likes are the ones in a lager.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else for me to say. Yeah, I'm gonna carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, come and join us again on Saturday night. I can't make it Saturday night, fortunately.
No.
So you and Ian are gonna have to have a little bit of fun.
Oh, okay. Well, Ian's in my bubble, so.
But we've got the lovely Sheila joining us on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Sheila Blige is coming to join us on Saturday. So you should have fun, hopefully, with her.
Yeah.
So it's good night from us.
Yeah. It's good night from him.
It's good night from him and me.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it. There you go. The money's run out of the meter in the dressing room.
Yeah, it's gone.
So we'll say good night, God bless, and see you on Saturday. Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.